Thanks for tuning in to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. Here you'll find tips, insight, and information to help your music and your ministry succeed. Whether you're a singer, a musician, or a songwriter, we want to help you where you are, but we also want to help you get to where you want to go. We believe that our talents are God's gift to us, but what we do with those are our gift back to God. Yesterday's information is important, but what we can learn today will make this the best day yet. Hey everybody, Rob Novell here. Wanted to take just a second to tell you about our next upcoming CNS event. We will have a weekend regional session in Central Florida, February 9th and 10th. Come study vocal, instrumental, songwriting, and so much more. To register and for more information, visit us at www.cnsmusic.com. Welcome back to another episode of the CNS podcast, The Best Day Yet. We are going to do a very, very simple introduction to piano improv today. If you noticed or recognized with the song I let in there, just the ending, a little bit of the ending of Amazing Grace, probably the anthem of the church, the most known and recognizable song in all of Christian music, Amazing Grace. So we're going to take just a simple melody like Amazing Grace, and I'm going to show you how we can take it from something as simple as this just simple melody and chords to something like this. And so on. Okay. So we're going to talk some right hand things that we can do today. We're going to talk some left hand things that we can do. Again, kind of just some basic piano improv 101, but it's going to allow you to start taking very, very simple arrangements. And as we look at this today, we're talking theory, and we are going to approach some of these things that we do theoretically, but they are very, very simple approaches to theory. So if we start looking at how we can form and build things theoretically, what we start to do is see patterns. Those patterns are going to help us not only by the end of today's podcast. Will you have a couple different approaches to play Amazing Grace, but taking these patterns, taking these approaches that we look at theoretically, you're going to be able to apply them to other songs, any song, anything that you need to do within your plan. So let's start from the basic. Again, we are basically going to just look here first at the single note melody of Amazing Grace. All right, so I'm playing this in the key of C. We're starting on a G, and then we are moving to C. So G, C. All right, so basic single note melody going on in the right hand. Now, to get into what we need to talk today, the first thing we need to understand is the chord structure that we are playing, our chord progression. We're in the key of C again. We are going to be talking our primary chords in music today. Our primary chords are chords built off the first, the fourth, and the fifth note of our major scales. So a C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. If we look at this not only by letter, but if we also identify each note of that scale by a number, our C scale starts on C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C is our first note in the scale, so we're going to call that a 1. D is 2, the second note. E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7, and then we end up on the octave. We're back to C. Now, when we are identifying our chords by numbers, we're not going to call this 8. It's the same note that we start on, which happens to be our keynote, our root, our tonic. We are in the key of C, so C is our 1. So we are going to have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, not an 8, but we're back to 1 at the end. So if we look at this, our primary chords again are chords that are built off the first note, the fourth note, and the fifth note of any major scale. So our primary chords here in the key of C, built on the 1, the 4, and the 5, we're building chords off our C, we're building chord off F, and we're building a chord off of G. So a C chord, an F chord, and a G chord. All right? So let me just give you this progression very simply. It starts on C, so C, C, F, back to C, 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 G, another G, back to C, C, F, C, C, G7, and C. All right, so if we combine that single note melody with these basic primary chords, here's what we have. All right, so our chords, I'm playing them in our left hand. I'm starting the C chord 1 octave below middle C, 5th finger on the C, 3rd finger on E, my thumb on G, okay? Now, in music, we have something that we call close and open harmony. Close harmony is where we are moving our chords in our left hand here as close as possible from as close as possible from one chord to the other. So my C chord, I just spelled it out, C, E, G. That happens to be in what we call root position. Root position because the letter name, the root of the chord is our bottom note. All right. So I played that when I played it hands together. I played this using single note melody in the right hand, primary chords in the left hand, but I used close harmony. I went from the C, instead of going to the F here, if I play this, let me do this again, and I'm going to do all the chords in root position. So okay, that's all in root position. My C chord, my F chord, and my G. This is what we call open harmony. Open because we are moving further distance between each chord. A lot can happen from the C to the F. We got all those notes in between that we could accidentally hit. No, well, that's actually a pretty chord. We call those chords jazz chords. When we hit something like that and it sounds good, yeah, we just call that a jazz chord. All right, so we are going to look at this in close harmony. So the C chord, all I have to do To get to the F chord is move my second finger to F, and my thumb is going to go up from G to A. My fifth finger is going to stay on the C. So if you learn to play your chords in close harmony, it is going to make things a little easier for you, eliminate the distance that you have to move, but it's also going to give you a fresh sound and take on your chords, especially if you're just used to playing everything in root position. So from the C to the F. Now, to get to the G, what I actually played a while ago was this, which is going to be what we call our kind of, for today's purposes, our first look at what we call an added chord. An added chord is any triad with an added note. So this one that I played was a G7. It's a G chord, but I'm adding in the F, okay? That's a G, what we call dominant 7 in root position, G, B, D, F. What I played down here in close harmony was my C chord. I'm moving my fifth finger down half a step to the B. Second finger is on the 7, the F, and then my thumb is on the G. So C, F, C, G7, and C. All right, so one of my favorite aspects of music, and honestly, lyrically, you all, is obviously what separates one genre of music from another. We know that in Christian music and gospel music, we absolutely have the best music that's out there because lyrically, what are we doing? We are sharing the message of Jesus Christ. We're sharing a message of hope, peace, love, salvation, reconciliation, restoration. Absolutely, when we're sharing Christian music, we're sharing the greatest story ever told. So hands down, yes, we have the best music. But lyric obviously separates one style of music from the other. The other thing that does is rhythm. And again, rhythm is my favorite aspect of music. And so we have a couple ways that we can approach our chords in our left hand. The way I was playing all of these chords in root position and open harmony, and then when I showed you close harmony, stylistically are what we call block chords. Block chords are where we play all three notes at the same time. We also have in music what we call broken chords. We can take those same three notes, and instead of playing them at the same time, we can play a note on each beat. Now, Amazing Grace, meter-wise, happens to be in 3/4 time. And it makes us talking broken chords really, really simple because the chords that we're looking at today are what we call triads. A triad is a 3-note chord. We just said to play a broken chord, we can play a note on each beat. If we're playing broken triads, there are 3 notes in the chord. If we're playing in 3/4 time, it's real simple. We're going to play one of the notes on each beat like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. All right. So the first thing that can start to make a change is I'm going to stick with single note melody in the right hand, but I'm simply going to change the left hand from block to broken chords. So just a simple change from block starts to give us this change in the sound. And so on. Okay. Awesome. So we've talked single note melody. We've talked basic primary chords in the left hand, open versus close harmony. We've also talked rhythmically block chords versus broken chords. So let's stick with the broken chords for a second. What I was doing And playing those a while ago, I simply was staying in position like we talked, right? Now, let's move that left hand to cover 2 octaves, okay? Instead of staying in 1 octave position, let's look at playing this in 2 octaves, all right? So here's how we can do this. Our triads, again, are 3 notes. Our C chord is a C, an E, and a G. We talked in broken style. If we play 1 note on each beat of the measure here in Amazing Grace, voila, we're there. We've got it. So it's as simple as this. Instead of just staying in 1 octave on 1, 2, 3, we can spread it out. Or, all right, any combination of the 3 notes of that measure is 100% acceptable. So I like this pattern right here is what we call a 10. My 5th finger is starting on C, 2 octaves below middle C. My second finger, index finger, is going to the G, first line of our bass clef, and then my thumb is hitting the E an octave higher. So this covers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 degrees on the piano. So this is why we call this a 10th. So you can think of it very simplistically, pattern-wise. Again, we used that word earlier as a 1, a 5, and a 10. So if I do this approach, okay, with the right hand, and so on. So what I've done there is I'm simply, again, playing 1 note on each, 1 note of the chord on each beat of the measure. So in doing that rhythmically, I'm playing in quarter notes, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now we can double that. Let's go back to the single note or single octave pattern. And I'm going to take it from quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3. I'm going to double it to 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and with the right hand. Okay, so all I simply did was moved us from 1, 2, 3 to 1 and 2 and 3, and I moved it from quarter notes to 8th notes. 1 octave position there. If I double that in the 2 octave, we can have 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and... Okay, so with the right hand, okay, so we start to hear the difference from this, where we started. This was single note right hand with block chords in the left hand. We've gone from that extreme to this. Quite a difference in the sound. Simply, you all, this is what we said at the beginning. We are approaching this through theory, basic theory elements such as our chord building, such as scales, understanding each degree of the scale we refer to as a number. You've heard us talk about the Nashville number system, and it's this simple. We base chords based off each note of the scale. So we can have a 1 chord, a 2 chord, a 3 chord, a 4 chord, and so on. The basic primary chords that we're using here in Amazing Grace, which, spoiler alert, thousands of our hymns are just simply based around our 1, our 4, and our 5. And doing that, learning that, and understanding primary chords, the sky's the limit with what we can play. So there's some things in the left hand. Now let's look at the right hand. Let's go from single note. Let's make octaves in the right hand. So we're going to play the same note with our thumb and the same note with our 5th finger an octave higher. Okay, so just simply octaves. So the difference in this sound would be, and I'm just going to do this with block chords. Broken chords. Let's go to broken chords over 2 octaves. All right, so very, very simply, you can see how these different patterns that we set up can start to drastically change the sound and take us, honestly, some very, very simple approaches from a very amateurish player to a more professional player very quickly, very fast, very efficiently, very much like overnight success. You could show up next Sunday and play at church and they're going to be like, who are you? And what did you do with our pianist? All right. So the next thing is this. If we start looking at the right hand and we kind of lock in this whole octave approach, here's what I want us to do. On the downbeat of each measure, the downbeat is beat number 1 of each measure. On the downbeat, what I want us to do, our melody note, every single melody note fits within the chord progression of that measure. So the G is what we call a pickup note. Pickup notes are where measures, we call them incomplete measures, where there can be measures that do not have the full number of beats that our time signature identifies. 3/4 time with Amazing Grace, but we start with 1 beat. We start on a G. This is a pickup note. Our first downbeat is the C right there. Okay. Now, when we go to that C, we said earlier that measure is a C chord. Again, our progression was C, C, F, C, right? So when we go to this C, what I want to do is fill in the missing notes of that triad with our right hand. So C and C, we're on a C chord, so our missing notes are the E and the G. So on the downbeat, instead of just playing the octave, I want to play the full chord. Okay? We're going to do the same thing on the second full measure, but our melody is E, but we're still on a C chord. So all we simply need to do, we're on the E, we're missing the G, and we're missing the C. Okay? So I want to fill that in on the downbeat of that second measure. So here's what we have. Okay? Third measure, we go to a C in the melody, but we go to an F chord in the progression. So our 3 notes in our F chord were F, A, C. We're already on the C with the melody and the octave here. So we need to fill the F and fill the A in the middle. Okay? Then we end up on a G octave, but we're back to a C chord. So C, E, G, we're on the G. We need to fill in the C and the E in the middle. So that first line would sound like this. we're going to play melody in octaves, but we're filling in the chord on the downbeat of each measure. Let's do that with simple block chords in one octave position in the left hand. Now let's do that with broken chords. So that starts to change it. Now let's take it to the 2 octaves. Okay, let's double the left to 8th notes like we talked. So, gang, guys, everyone, it is that simple to start filling out the sound. Last little thing I want to talk about today are what we call chord substitutions. Everything we've talked up to now has been based around primary chords, R1, R4, and R5. In this case, we're playing it as a 5/7, all right? So chord substitution is this simple. It's where we substitute chords in place of other chords, all right? So one easy approach to this, the progression again at the beginning was C, C, F, C. Now, I want to change that from C, and from C to C, I want to change it from C to A minor on the second measure. Our A minor chord, here's our C chord. The A minor chord is A, C, and E, okay? It's this simple, y'all. Our melody note is a C. Chord substitution, whatever chord we want to put in place, as long as the melody note belongs in that chord, we basically can make that work. A, C, E is my A minor triad. If I play that against the C melody, see how that works? Okay. Now, I also want to look at a second approach. Our triads, we talk them in root position. That's where the letter name of our chord is on bottom. So it's our 1, our 3, and our 5 that make up that C major chord. Our C, E, and G, first, third, fifth note of the scale. Now, when we went to the F, we're not thinking of the C scale any longer. We're on an F. So we need to be thinking our F scale. So again, if we break this down, F becomes our 1, the A is our 3, the C is our 5, okay? That's in root position. Now, we talk close harmony. What close harmony basically is doing is incorporating what we call inversions with our chords. Triads, 3-note chords. There are 3 notes in a chord, C, E, G. So that means there are 3 ways we can play this chord. C, E, G, E, G, C, or G, C, E. Okay? Now, we said 1 to a 6 minor a while ago. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to go from a 1 or a C to a C over an E. If you've seen chord charts or lead sheets and you've seen those fraction-looking chords, that's what I'm talking about. These are what we call inversions. And what I'm going to do is move from the... Instead of staying on the C in root position twice, I'm going to invert it. I'm going to go to a C over an E. So that simply means in the left hand, I am outlining a C chord still, but I'm starting on the E. Okay, so C over E, F, C. Okay, that would sound like this. Okay, now here's the best place. I mentioned the A minor earlier. I just wanted to show you a case in point, but this is the best place to go to the 6 minor is on the second phrase. What I did on that second measure of G, earlier we said our progression on the second phrase was C, C, G. The second one, I'm playing a G chord the first, and then I'm going to the 7 and making that the 5-7 for the second measure. I'm going to go back to a 1/3 here. F. I'm going to go to a F minor here. That's what I did in the opening. Now, here I'm going to the C chord, but I have the 5 of the C chord in the bass. So this is a C over a G. G7, and then on the opening I went to a 6 flat major here, 7 flat, and I ended on what we call a 1 major 7 when we started. So chord substitution, we're just quickly talking on it a little bit here at the end today. It's where we take our triads and we add a note in with it. Seventh chords are, kind of, we crawl, we walk, we run. Seventh chords are kind of what you first dive into. We have 5 different type of seventh chords in music, but primarily we utilize 2 of those chords. We use what's known as a major 7, and we use what's known as a dominant 7. Okay, the dominant 7, if you see just simply a G7. It is G, B, D, and F, which in our G scale, our F is sharped. So when we go from a F sharp to a F natural, we are lowering it or flatting it. So we call this the dominant 7 is the 1, the 3, the 5, and the 7 flat. Major 7 is the pure. Okay, major 7 chords have major 7s are a little bit more jazzy sounding, where dominant 7s are a little bit more gospel, a little bit more country, rock and roll. So the difference in these 7th chords can be in what genre or style of music we're doing. Okay, so there we go. Some basic piano improv, some right hand techniques that we talked today, several things in the left hand. Man, work this Amazing Grace up, but also take these basic principles and apply them to other songs, apply them to other hymns that you play, other Christian songs within your writing. Try mixing up. Sometimes for songwriters, a great thing is simply taking something from a block approach to a broken approach to start to get some rhythm building and going. It can really help with your creativity and really inspire you to produce something special, something special. All right, there you go. Just a simple approach to piano improvisation. We will probably do a part 2 off of this and kind of pick up where we ended today. But I do want to mention this too. It's 2024. It's a new year. I've heard so many different slogans. No more in 24, more in 24. I've latched onto this one. New doors in 24. If you truly, truly want to take your music next level, man, we would love to have you with us at CNS 24, July 14th through the 20th at Murray State University. You know the drill. You know how to find us at www.cnsmusic.com to register or to get more information. However, you don't have to wait until July. We have something with CNS called Creative Coaching, where you can study with our staff virtually weekly every other week, once a month. I have the privilege of working with multiple out-of-state students virtually, and we're able to help move their music forward on a weekly or, again, a bi-weekly basis. So if you would have an interest in studying privately with myself or some of our other faculty, reach out to me again. You can email me at info@cnsmusic.com, and we can get that information to you. Listen, take this approach that we did today. I promise you, if you start applying some of these patterns, some of these tricks, some of these tips, techniques from right hand to left hand that we talked today, if you apply them to your music, to your playing, you're going to see that this will make this be what? Your best day yet. Y'all be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the name the Charles Novell School of Music. And for more information on CNS and our upcoming events, like our online school, our weekend regional sessions, our creative coaching, and our pastor's retreat, you can visit us at our website at www.cnsmusic.com. As you've listened to this episode, we hope that you've gained some information that you can apply to your music and to your ministry to make today the best day yet.